You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffauf.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting here with me, as usual, is my co-host, Justin Raffauf.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Haven't had many of these bye week shows.
No, so, this is irregular for us.
Yeah, so we're pulling out all the stops.
Yeah, when this came up, about a month or so ago, that this is going to happen, I wasn't sure. Were we going to have a show? Were we going to do anything here? But I think it's for the best that while we're in season, we always have a show, whether we have something to talk about or not. It was up in the air, but we decided to go for it. And actually, the person that alerted me to this bye week about 5 or 6 weeks ago with an article on his site was Mike Drago, who is joining us again this evening. It's been multiple times you've been on the show, and we appreciate that, Mike. And also here with him is Jeff Reinahrt, making his first appearance on the Bulldog Hour from Lancaster Online, Lancaster Sports. So, guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, great to be here, always. Love to come into the Bulldogs Museum.
Well, yeah, first time here. This is the ultimate Wilson man cave you got here. This is awesome. Yes. Great studio. Fabulous.
Thank you. And I do apologize to everyone, our guests and those watching for the delay. Of course, first time in a very long time that we've had technical issues. I don't know, stream wasn't working, but hopefully the workaround, hopefully everyone is watching us. If not, you'll have to catch it afterwards. But we've got a fun and interesting show tonight because we're not recapping a game.
Yeah.
We are on the bye week. All of 6A was in District 3. So there's 4 games to be played this coming Friday and Saturday. The Bulldogs will be playing on Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock in Harrisburg against the Cougars. And we will be previewing that game completely. But before we do, I just want to take some time and introduce our guests here, primarily Jeff, since we haven't had you on the show before. Jeff, you're here with us. You cover Lancaster sports, football in the fall for LancasterOnline.com, the LNP Media Group.
Yep.
So just fill us in and how long you've been doing this. And
Forever.
Yeah. I know it's been a while.
It's been a long while. I think my first byline was in 1993 for Lancaster newspapers. It's been a while. And then we started Lancaster Online, started Lanc Sports in like 08, 09.
Okay.
And I was in on that. Had to go away for a little while. I went to Penn Live. People will remember for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But happily back and very glad to be back with Lancaster and Lancaster Online and LNP and that organization. Love it. Been covering LL football for years and years and years along with this guy and District 3 and, just love it. Love covering LL football. It's been my main beat for got to be 20 years now. Just enjoy the league, enjoy the kids, enjoy the coaches, enjoy the camaraderie. Love what you guys do. The kids appreciate it. And, playoffs.
Yeah.
Here we go. Playoffs.
Yeah, the second season is here. But, yeah, Jeff, you're the guy from the LL media that as soon as I got back here and started doing this over a decade ago, I was like, this is the guy I need to get my information from for the Lancaster-Lebanon aspect of it. Of course, here, Mike was the guy in the Reading Berks area that latching on to. And Mike reached out to me when he wanted to find out who was running the Wilson Bulldogs account to see if it was legit. Like, is there an adult running this account? Because you know how some of the high school accounts, you got students running them.
So sort of. There's sort of an adult.
A quasi-adult was running the Wilson account, yes. But yeah, Jeff, following you on Twitter primarily, that's where you seem to put out a lot of your stuff. When I found all the stats and the takeaways and the helmet stickers and all the stuff that you pump out daily, I was like, I'm glad Wilson's in the LL to have someone that covers them like this. And yeah, just wonderful.
I don't sleep much during football. By about 5 a.m., I'm usually up writing something of some sort. I just like to be thorough with it. Mike's the same way. This beat is much more than just showing up on a Friday night and covering a game. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stats. There's a lot of previews. There's a lot of notebooks. there's a lot to do with football if you take the beat seriously. And now with 37 teams, wow,
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot to do. But yeah, I enjoy that. I pride myself. If nothing else, I pride myself on being pretty thorough.
Yeah, well, and you certainly are, because I go through all of your. You are the reason I subscribe to Lancaster, to Lancaster newspaper. I want to get everything in depth throughout the football season, and seeing your posts, it's just so exciting. But when the merger came up, finally, when it felt like we were talking about it forever, and then it went through, and then 2 years later, here we are, and it's happened. 37 teams, huge league, a lot of coverage. But you also mentioned that the high school sports offer so many stories outside of just the games being played. That was something that was brought up multiple times when we first talked to Mike about his new site now a year plus ago. Are there still going to be the stories, not just the wins and losses and the game coverage? Or you're going to still have those pieces, which everyone was happy that is true. But was the merger the reason for the two of you to drum up a partnership this year between LNP and Mike Drago Sports?
Absolutely.
How did that come about?
Well, it speaks to his thoroughness as well, because he had to know all these LL teams. I had to know all the Berks teams, and I was excited when I got the call from him saying, "Hey, what do you think of this?"
Yeah, well, I talked to Jeff throughout the season and the off season, and he expressed concerns that LNP wanted to cover all the games, but just didn't have the staff to do it. And of course, I'm in the same position that I want to cover every game for the website, MikeDragosports.com, and just don't have available 12, 13, 14 people to send out there. So I said, why don't we just join forces? We'll share stories and pictures on game night and help each other out. And I think it's going great.
Absolutely. Oh, a great resource. I need stats. I need a kid's name. I need anything. I can go to Mike, and our stuff there is for him as well, for the Berks crew, and they can jump on and see all that. I remember when all this kind of hit the fan a couple of years ago. Our big boss,
sweating it out a little,
boss, and he said, we're gonna cover all this. We're not gonna not cover Hamburg against Fleetwood. We're gonna cover that because the people want to read that. I mean, we need to cover our league. So I was really excited, when they got a deal done and said, "Hey, let's do this and let's get together and share." And it's worked out awesome.
Yeah, it just seemed like a perfect partnership.
Yeah, I was excited. I remember when Joey sent me the post on Mike's site that it was announcing kind of like what was to come. I was like, oh my gosh, I was really excited.
Is this happening? Is this
really
exactly.
Happening? I was like,
pretty much
right.
what we said,
I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I was waiting a couple of months maybe for the ink to dry on me. I remember I was like, is this going to happen, Mike? Keep me posted, man.
Yeah, but
it happened.
No, the people at LNP couldn't have been any greater to work with, and I spoke to your bosses and your sports editor, and we just wanted to hash out a few details, like what are we going to do on a Friday night? What are we going to share? Set the boundaries. And as I told Laura Eckert, the sports editor, I said we had a phone conference about 10 days before the season. I said, well, we're going to know a lot more Friday night at around 2 a.m. than we know right now. But it actually, first night went smoothly, and it's gone smoothly ever since. But the great thing for readers of my website is, you can not only have access to the Berks games, but I will pull off 5 or 6 of the key games in LL if it's Coke Calico, playing Garden Spot or Hempfield against,
Township or
whatever. Township, sure, because Wilson fans are interested in those Section 1 games. So I've tried to post the Manheim Township games and Hempfield games almost every week, and so I think it's a win-win.
Agreed, 1,000%.
Oh,
it's been great, and hopefully, knock on wood, it keeps getting better.
I hope it's continuing. And I like going back on what you said, Jeff, about when this was all talked about, and LNP basically said we're still going to cover Berks on Berks matchups.
Yes.
Works out perfectly because, as Mike said, if you're playing them, those are teams in your section.
Sure.
You want to know what's happening. It doesn't matter that they're in Berks now. It's all one league.
Exactly.
You still want to know what's happening.
I can safely say this, Jeff, without going around the entire state and examining everything, but our two websites have to be the only place in the state where a huge league of 25 or more teams, where there's an individual report and a box score on every game.
Yeah,
Every game, all
Friday-
season. We have
by Friday night at midnight.
Yep,
Usually.
that's right.
I spent the summer. I hate to get off topic. I spent the whole summer. I took my vacation right away after volleyball. I spent literally the whole summer reading everything he wrote and just prepping for these 13 teams. And because I knew, and you guys know my coverage, I'm thorough. And I wasn't going to go into August not knowing anything about Hamburg, not knowing anything about YO, not knowing anything about whoever. So I spent the whole summer just doing my homework and getting ready. So when camps open and media day hit, I knew these 13 teams and I knew what I was talking about because I wanted to cover them thoroughly.
Apparently, I should have spent more time on Section 3 because I completely bombed there. Don't go back and look at my preseason Section
One of
3.
us sitting here did take Solenko to win that section.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So Jeff,
Yes,
your previews, your very thorough previews for all these teams,
Yeah.
Especially the LL ones, is what I've been going to you for years because I can do the Wilson stuff. I
Sure.
have that, but I need to know all the rest of the stuff. Do you get all the information from talking to the coaches? Is that from your notes from the past year? Where do you gather all that? The previews.
A lot of it's from the coaches.
Okay.
Just like Mike does, we send out stuff early in the summer, June, usually July at the very latest. Hey guys, I know you're scattering, but I need some notes because you know what I do when I have to start. I can't walk in August 15th and start. Impossible.
Gosh, you would be so far behind.
Impossible. So a lot of it is stuff from the coaches. A lot of it is just the notebook from the year before.
Okay.
And a lot of it's just, I've been doing this for 30 years and I just kind of know,
Yeah.
you know, and then I can go back and pull up stuff from last year and, you know, key players back and this kid, and
Yeah.
you know, you just keep stuff and you remember. And again, that's same with Mike. You just kind of pride yourself on that. You know these kids, you know the coaches, you know the programs. Coaches have been really cool as far as getting stuff back to me early in the summer. And I can just kind of dive in and just kind of, okay, here we go. 2022, here we go.
Yeah, we've found, when Justin and I started this, this is our 8th season now, and it's a little bit different because, Justin works for the school and we've been around Wilson football for a long time. But when we brought it up to Coach Doms and just like, hey, do you care if we do that? He's like, no, this would be perfect to do something like that because they want the media coverage. They want the kids out there.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that other coaches are so receptive to you both and the staffs coming to them. Sometimes you hear stories about usually upper levels, college, pro, about how standoffish people can get with media and coverage and stuff like that. So, but it's good that the high schools have been so receptive, the coaching staffs, to open up to you as much as possible.
Yeah, we've both been covering this area for so long that we have good rapport with all these guys, and they know who we are. And I think the LL folks, especially with me, they kind of know what I write. I'm not in this to throw kids under the bus and say, Johnny dropped the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah, no.
And they lost because of him. I don't really write that. It's high school kids,
Not shock journalism.
No, I mean, come on. But they kind of know who we are.
Yes.
They know what we do, and that we're in it for, kind of all the right reasons. And
Right.
It's odd and rare when I don't get cooperation. If I have to send a second note saying, hey,
could you get this
please?
to me? Yeah.
Rarely. It's usually, who gets the booby prize for first one back, in 10 minutes. I got Dom's is usually first,
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
these are the first 1 or 2 back that I get every year. But good cooperation, and that just speaks to the guys and just how seriously they take this, and they're all in it for the right reasons.
Yes. So the last thing about the coverage and the history here, we talked about this a little leading up to this. You do picks, weekly picks.
You noticed?
Oh, look who's bringing this up, Jeff. You notice? The guy who's been in first place here for weeks. Yeah, let's talk about our picks. Sure, Joe. What do you want to know?
No. I'm not here to brag about being in first place of the Fearless Friday forecast on MikeDragoSports.com, but I will point that out.
Well, I really hope you win because first prize is a hoagie from Made Sandwich Shop.
Make it yourself.
Wouldn't be the first time.
At least he plugged you. That was nice.
No, but my first interactions, I think, with you, Jeff, were
Sir.
not directly at you, but I always like taking notes anytime you pick against Wilson, because I have to be part of the hype machine, drum up the motivation. That's always something that I prided myself on, making sure. Well, who did Jeff pick? But more often than not, you were picking Wilson. But when you didn't, I made sure that everyone knew. And it's hanging up in the locker room.
Sure
Jeff Reinahrt, nope, pick Manheim Township or whatever game it was. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. And the coaches, I know they follow that too. I know they probably have talked to you time and time again. And I think usually they're. Thank you for picking against us. Is what
That's what I get. I never get thank you for picking us, man. That was awfully nice of you. I don't know. We always talk about this at the office and stuff, and it's I don't know if are we providing like inspiration for these kids?
Yes.
Or
yes.
Really? I appreciated that you're looking at it. I take those really seriously. I really break it down and I look at it, and then I get to a certain point in the season where I'm like, well, I did pick them to win the section, so I gotta pick them here.
Right, they gotta win, right?
Township might be playing a little better, but I picked Wilson to win the section. I guess I better pick Wilson, and then I'll have the year where it's like, well, I picked Township to win the section. I gotta pick them, even though Wilson's 7-0. I still gotta pick them. It's really hard. But it's, I don't know, it's one of the fun parts of the gig.
Yeah.
I think, because it's just like, hey, this is my opinion, and I think Manheim Central is going to beat Exeter, and they almost did.
Joe,
So-
did you note that I've picked Wilson every week this year?
told me.
Okay.
Did you? Okay, I didn't realize that you
After
that you
Roman
had.
Catholic, he's like, no, I'm not picking against him the rest of the year. No way.
So, no, I need to start keeping tabs on that. Who picks against Wilson? That needs to be, maybe that could be a new Bulldog Hour roundup.
This is
There we
going to be
go.
like Nixon's enemy list.
Seriously.
You're on the list.
Doug Dom's going to put a hit out on me if I don't pick him this week.
Seriously. I've gotten a lot of eyeballs after Wilson wins over the years. I'm always terrified when I go down on the field after, like, where's Ernie at? Avoid Ernie.
Yeah.
No, just don't make eye contact with Ernie. Keep walking. I don't know. I'm glad we can, provide the inspiration for the kids.
Well, I don't know if so
Whatever.
much the inspiration and motivation. It gives coaches a talking point. So indirectly, like there'd be like, no one thinks you can win, or so and so from here. It has come up. It has been in there. I've seen it. I've heard
And
it.
like I said, I study these, and I take these picks seriously. I don't just circle teams. So I would hope when the folks out there are reading these, they're saying, well, he picked them for a reason. He broke the game down, and he kind of knows this. I just don't go willy-nilly and start picking teams. I've picked Kutztown this year. I think I picked Beckway Valley this year. I mean, I really take them seriously and try to make good, safe picks based on my knowledge and the breakdown and the stats and the records and the tendencies and all that stuff. And he's the same way. Trust me.
No, I'm flipping a coin.
No,
Thursday morning at noon. Yeah.
no, early in the season when it's serious. Yeah, you're looking at him. You're breaking it down.
Yeah. Well, last thing on that, I a couple years ago now, I did a decade in review, a recap, and I just went over the best games in Wilson in the 2010s, and one that made the list was Wilson at Hempfield back in 2015, which was a really close game, but I embedded your tweets leading up to that because you were is this when the streak's gonna end? Because it was about the section winning streak, and that was I just remember that going over that. I was like, I remember interacting with Jeff that night. I need to put those in. I went back in the timeline and found it. Oh yeah, they were there.
Was that like 16-9 game or?
It was something wacky like that.
Wilson scored late, the last 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, that was a great game.
Was that the year Township beat them?
No, that was 2017. Yeah, so this was a couple years before that. This was in 2015. This was with John Fox, Shane Dantzler. It was actually Alex Twyford who scored out of almost like a wildcat quarterback.
Was that the game Fode had a sack at the end?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And did that game also break the league record
that
Manheim had set?
Yeah, it either tied or broke. I can't remember which one it was.
So it was close though.
It was very close.
Yes.
Well, your tweet was something like, "Is this the night the Wilson streak ends?" or something like that.
Wow.
And yeah, that was always the one, because I think I responded with, like, the sweat emoji or whatever, or like not tonight, Jeff, something like that. So
I didn't block you or mute.
man, I hope it would take more than that,
Next.
or I would have been blocked a long time ago, but no. So just a few things from us here before we talk about Harrisburg. Obviously, we're deep. We're in the second season now. 6A had a bye week, so we're not recapping the Wilson game. We're going to preview Harrisburg, and we'll be back next week to recap the Harrisburg game and then preview the semifinals. Hopefully, Wilson's going to be a part of that. If not, we'll recap the game but still talk about who the remaining 4 teams are. But that would be the last show of the year. So hopefully that's not the case, but we will see. So that would be November 13th. Same time, same place as usual. But we do want to also thank our sponsors, primarily my dad and May's Sandwich Shop, for sponsoring the show, presenting us here at the Bulldog Hour since the beginning. And also our other Season 8 sponsors, including Mike Drago and MikeDragoSports.com, the Hop family, Andy Herr, and our 6 anonymous donors.
Nice.
So appreciate all those helpful people and businesses supporting us here. And in addition to the sponsorship, advertising, the in-kind donations, be sure to visit the website bulldoghour.com and subscribe to Justin's favorite.
Yeah, like and share. I know we mentioned on last week's show, a couple people after the Township game were like, "Wait, I know those voices." But yeah, it's just when you like it, spread the word. We like when you guys tell us at the games, "Oh, I like this, or I like that," and things like that. So, yeah, just spread the word. Helps us be able to do more with the show.
Yes, for sure. So, Wilson-Harrisburg, this is honestly, it's not a big series rivalry. This is only the 10th meeting between the two teams, but it's happened a lot recently. So yeah, it's right at the top of everyone's mind, because this will be the 4th time in 5 seasons the two teams have met. And as Justin and I have been saying now, multiple shows as this became more and more of a reality, Harrisburg has directly or indirectly ended Wilson's season every year since 2018.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of history here of late. This is the 7th playoff meeting between Wilson and Harrisburg Harrisburg does lead the series 5-4, at least according to the research from the Wilson stats book. And the Cougars have won 3 in a row. Harrisburg won the district championship last year over Wilson at Severance Field 14-10 on November 20th. And we have to go back to the 2015 season that we were just talking about for Wilson's last win over Harrisburg, which was 56-6 on November 13th, 2015, in a 4A first round game. So back before 6 classifications was Wilson's last win over Harrisburg. And actually, Wilson's only won once at Severance Field, and that was back on September 7th, 2013. So the Cougars went 7-2 in the regular season. 6-1 in Mid-Penn Commonwealth. Their only losses were to Manheim Township, which we'll get to shortly, and State College. The State College game, I believe Harrisburg played without starting quarterback Sean Lee in that one. They only played 9 games because their first game was in that Peach Kickoff Classic in Chambersburg. It was against a powerhouse team from Maryland. I think it was Maryland,
Right.
but was delayed and then eventually canceled because of weather. So Harrisburg had one last game played as a result of that. And the biggest news coming out at the beginning of the year was that they were without head coach Calvin Everett for what would have been the first 3 games. He ended up just missing those 2 because of the cancellation. And during the time of his when he was missing from the sidelines, they lost one of their 2 games to Manheim Township. And Jeff, you were at that game.
I was.
Tell us about that.
Wow. All right, I got to rack my brain here. It's been a couple months. Great game. Township just hung around. Beat them late. Got a turnover late in the 4th. Got a short field. And Hayden Johnson, they're really good junior quarterback. Yeah. He's really efficient.
Yeah.
Hit Asher Wolf in the back of the end zone. Little curl in the corner. Put it right in there on the spot. And they came back and beat them. Everett was not there that day, like you mentioned. Harrisburg was a little out of sorts, turned it over.
2 blocked punts, I think.
Yeah, there might have been a blocked punt in there. I should have looked at the box score before I left, but might have turned it over on downs once or twice. Township was just opportunistic. Johnson completed a lot of passes. Did you see Township this year? They don't throw downfield a lot. Did you see it?
No, I have not seen them.
His passing numbers are ridiculous, but they don't throw like bombs,
Right.
air raid. They do a lot of comeback routes and
A lot of screens and
bubbles. So he's only averaging like 9 or 10 yards per completion or something like that. It's not a lot,
but it's a high completion
but it's
percentage.
a really high percentage. I mean, he leads the league in completions and attempts and second in yards.
It kind of reminds me of what people said before Tom Brady really became big Tom Brady, was when the Patriots used that quick passing game as their running game. There's no running game in New England. It's all quick passes. That's kind of what they seem to be doing, this like dink and dunk and quick hitters. But I mean, he executes it flawlessly. He's an incredible talent for them at Township. And we just saw him, a week plus ago. And it was amazing. And the kids and coaches both said that was the best quarterback we've seen this year.
Yeah, heady. Very heady, efficient kid. Just knows their offense so well. And now that I did rack my brain, they did get 2 punt blocks, and got great field position. And I believe that's how they got it late fourth. And Township went right in and scored. Harrisburg got the kickoff, got to around midfield, and just ran out of time basically. But that was a great win for Township.
Yeah, on the road.
That was to beat then the defending district champs like that at their place. That's a tough place to go in and play.
Yeah, and the Cougars had a lot of home cooking this year. 6 of their 9 games were at home. We know those games are played on Saturday afternoons, though I believe that might be changing. I think they just installed lights, and they might be changing that for hopefully maybe next year.
Didn't hear that.
They also redid the turf. They redid the track. So a lot of things have changed this past year. Were they new when you were there?
I don't remember seeing lights.
No, I think it just got completed a few weeks ago.
Okay,
but
I wasn't
new
sure.
turf and lights. Now, I think they played one night game, or maybe not. They haven't actually used the lights yet.
No,
for
I don't
football.
think they have. I don't think they've used the lights, at least for a football game. Actually, Justin sent me the article over the summer. It was right around the kickoff, like in August, like right when the season was starting, announcing the Severance Field renovations. And one of them was they wanted to play games on Friday nights so that the lights would be added. But then I was like, oh, good. If we have to play there this year, we can play on a Friday night. And then nothing came up about it, and we're playing Saturday at 1. So
it's a great facility.
Oh, love
it's
it.
A really
love
cool
it. Yep.
Stadium.
Very cool.
Big, tons of bleacher space and good turf.
I like the aesthetics of the visitor side right by the school.
Right by the school there.
Really cool. Yeah, really cool place.
Night games will be really cool there.
Yeah.
And you guys are missing the most important thing: great concession stand. They really, there's some good food there. Yeah.
Reading my mind, Mike.
Yes.
Was the next thing.
Yeah.
The chicken
Chicken
tenders,
fingers or
whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Got to get the sauce. Sauce is excellent.
Nice.
Yeah, good stuff.
I like the press box.
Yeah.
A lot of room up there, a lot of elbow room. And they have rosters and everything's cool. Yeah, it's a neat place to watch and cover a game. Yes.
So the Cougars are immensely talented. They're the defending District 3-6A champions. They return their quarterback, who was only a freshman last year. So sophomore quarterback Sean Lee, he wears number 8. Like I said, he missed the loss for State College, but he's been very good this year. We talked about a high completion percentage from Hayden Johnson. Sean Lee is completing just about 70% of his throws. He's thrown for over 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but he's also a dual threat. He has 52 rushes for 292 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground. So he looks really good. But I don't even know that I'd say he's their go-to guy, because that seems to be Kyle Williams, the senior receiver, who's committed to Temple, I believe. He is pure dual threat.
Oh, yeah.
He can line up at running back, wide receiver. He does it all. He has 75 rushes, 510 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground, and then an additional 39 catches for 511 yards and 6 touchdowns as a receiver. So we saw both those guys last year in the district championship loss to them. Another guy we saw last year, unfortunately, back this year is senior running back Mekhi Hopkins.
He's a load.
He is a load. 6'2", 230. He wears jersey number 7 for those of you going to the game this Saturday.
Miss him.
No, you won't.
Yeah, I mean, he's a beast from running back and his linebacker spot. He's at 848 yards on the season with 11 rushing touchdowns. I also noticed that he is at least their place kicker. I don't know if he does kickoffs or not.
I think he kicks off.
He kicks off. They don't kick a lot of PATs. They usually go for 2. He's only 2 of 4 on PATs. I did notice their tendency on 2-point conversions, though, is to run versus pass. So I'm sure Coach Wolber is very well aware of that fact, but I thought it jumped out there and wanted to mention it. So Lee, Hopkins, and Williams are the big three on offense. Any other guys to look out for on offense, or anything that you've seen from them? I know you're thinking just from the Manheim Township game or any film. Yeah. Anything else stand out from the Harrisburg offense?
They've got a freshman, Jeff. I don't know how much he played against Township. His name is Elias Coke.
Yes.
And he's supposed to be big-time player, and I think he's a basketball player too, but he's got 20 catches this year. Mm-hmm. And in a preseason, or back in July, like a 7-on-7 tournament, I think it was at Harrisburg, but they had some elite teams there. He was the MVP of the tournament.
Yeah.
Wow. I do remember writing his name down a couple of times.
Big kid, 6'1", 187 receiver, and he's 14 years old, so he's probably going to keep growing.
Yeah, he wears lucky number 13. He just had 20 catches, 6 of them were touchdowns.
That's pretty good.
So, yeah, Elias Coke is another one. And I didn't mention Amir Granberry, number 6, a senior wide receiver. He gets thrown in there. So they have size, they have speed, they have talent all around. I'm not as familiar with the linemen. I don't think they're maybe quite as big as they had been over the last few years. Yeah. When we went there last year and in 2018 and saw them come to Gursky in 2019, I just see them walk out there, and the size of these kids. They've been going to they went to Texas A&M and Penn State, and it just. The talent that Harrisburg had and has is just incredible, and you see why they're the defending champs. And I'm sure most people think that there's a good chance that they could repeat this year.
You mentioned the Hopkins kid, and I wanted to just so people knew. Looks like a fullback, but runs like a halfback tailback kid. Just has just a big boy, but when he gets to a hole and finds a hole, he just has this gear. And he can really drag you, and you look up, and he's 8 yards down the field. I think he had 128 rushing last year in the district game. Didn't score a touchdown. I think Lee scored both their touchdowns last year on keepers. But the Mackay can really pick him up and put him down.
Yeah, Hopkins had 130 yards against Wilson. Yeah,
I remember he had a big game.
Wow. Yeah. So, but it's not just offense that you have to worry about, because they can fly around on defense as well. Hopkins, I mentioned, is also a starter at linebacker for them. But the one that stands out to me defensively is senior defensive end Terrell Reynolds, number 2. He's 6'2", 240. He leads the team by far in tackles with 83, which I think was 22 more than the next closest guy. 20 of those tackles are for loss, and he has 12 and a half sacks.
Wow.
An additional 10 quarterback hurries and 3 forced fumbles.
Tommy Hunsaker, heads up, my man.
Yeah, hey, you might want to know where number 2 is.
We'll know where number 2's lining up.
Oh, he's going to know where he's at. Tommy will know.
Yeah, he'll hear him.
You won't have to look far.
Yeah.
Terrell Reynolds, I remember him from last year. Yeah. They had, I forget who was opposite him last year, but I remember doing this preview a year ago thinking, wow, how do we slow these guys down? And of course, most of them are back, which fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Reynolds had 22 and a half sacks last year.
Yep.
And I saw a quote from Calvin Everett, the Cougars coach. He said that Reynolds is the best pass rusher he's ever coached. Now, if you remember, he coached Micah Parsons a few years ago, who's like the best pass rusher in the NFL. So, at this level, at this age, he thinks Reynolds is better.
Wow.
Is Reynolds committed to anywhere yet? I should have wrote that down. I didn't.
I did not see that.
Okay.
I'm sure if he was committed, we'd know about it.
We have a few watchers and listeners that are Cougars fans, so I'm sure I'll be getting an email with some information that we missed. And please do, because I want to know everything I can. So if we miss something, please let us know. You know where to contact us. They have a great defensive backfield as well. Amir Jones is their second leading tackler, 61, and he has 3 interceptions for them. Zakai Lewis, another great DB for them. Actually, I think kind of almost like a linebacker, a hybrid strong safety linebacker type player, which I believe is also was their quarterback, or the backup quarterback that played when Sean Lee wasn't able to. So that he's a great athlete as well. And then a couple underclassmen that stand out on defense for them: Damone Maxwell, the linebacker, and also I believe the opposite defensive end from Reynolds is junior Ryan Epps, who has 13 tackles for a loss, 3.5 sacks as well. We mentioned on offense the freshman receiver Coke. They also have a couple sophomores contributing across the line of scrimmage and as well deep. Kymir Williams is the one that stood out to me, number 3, a sophomore defensive back. He's got 43 tackles and 9 for loss. So there's a lot of names that we just rattled off. But for all intents and purposes, Wilson fans going out there, if they have a number like 12 and under, expect them to be a ball player because all these guys, number 8, number 7, number 4, number 6, number 2, number 9, number 5, number 3. The only one I think that wasn't 13 or under was Maxwell, who's number 32. So those lower numbers seem to be the big guys. And no disrespect to the linemen, it's hard to quantify in high school. Unless you're going to watch every film from every game and you have all the list of pancake blocks or blocking scores, I can't single out the offensive lineman in particular, which near and dear to my heart. But unfortunately, there's not a lot out there for those guys. So
they're a fun team too. This is dorky, but this is how I cover things. I go early and watch like warm-ups and stuff. I've done that for years. Harrisburg's fun to watch warm up. They don't wear pads.
No,
and they kind of like roll their
they
shirts
have the jerseys
off,
rolled
the
up,
guns out, and they're fun to watch warm up. It's neat to watch them get ready.
Is the Chucky doll back, or was that a 1-year thing?
I don't remember seeing that in the Township game.
No, last year the Chucky doll was a big thing. That might have been part of that graduating class.
I hope so. That was creepy. I don't know how that got started, but let's hope Chucky graduated.
Now it's going to be up in the press box.
He's gonna be in a seat that says reserved for Mike Drago.
Well, Justin, if he's up there, we're going to find out if Chucky can fly.
So anything else to point out from Harrisburg perspective? Anything that they did or they do, or a player that we didn't touch on?
You mentioned the kicking. They're probably going to go for 2 a lot.
More often than not, yeah.
If they have to punt, they got to get it out of there.
Yeah.
And while trying to avoid kicking it to who at the other end at the same time. Not an overly strong special teams.
Yeah, they do well in the returns. It's setting up for the punt has been an issue for them. Punt and kick returns are good. They have the athletes that can stoke fear in you. But yeah, they don't kick extra points a lot. They go for 2 more often. A high majority of the time they attempt 2-point conversions, and they're very good at it. But yeah, we know that. They kicked to Cam last year. Just they also used his face mask to tackle him at the end of the game, which I know there's still some people stewing about that, which I'm sure will come up many times over the next week as we get ready for the game, which will be Saturday, which will be November 12th, 1:00 in Harrisburg, Severance Field for Wilson-Harrisburg, matchup number 10 all time between the Bulldogs and the Cougars, and the winner goes on to the District 3 6A semis, but the loser is done for the year. So be an early exit, and it's probably been a long time since Wilson didn't win a playoff game when they made the playoff field. So that might be one that we need to go back and look at. I'm thinking that could go back a long ways.
Well, I want to say CD East, maybe.
Now, that was the week after Wilson beat Harrisburg in 2015.
Okay.
What about when we had to play Township twice a couple years ago?
No, one an early game too.
okay.
That was the second round. Yeah.
Winner gets who? Central York
or York William Penn, in which they're having a rematch, 2 games in 3 weeks between the two of them. So speaking of which, why don't we just dive in right there and look at the other 6A games for those of you watching out there, Wilson Harrisburg fans. Whoever wins that game on Saturday will get the winner of York William Penn Central York. Have either of you seen any of those York teams?
No, but LL teams have played Central York, so I've had to bone up a little on them.
Okay.
Central has that Jules Golf,
the
running back kid. Usually they're like, Pabula, throw it 80 times, but they're more like a running team now with this golf kid.
Okay.
And he's well over 1,000 rush. He lit up Hempfield earlier this season, so they can really run the ball. That kind of seems to be their bread and butter right now.
Their opponent coming up can really run the ball. Jaheim White,
he's been there
committed to
forever.
West Virginia. We saw him last year Fantastic offense for the Bearcats, just amazing.
Stoner's good.
Stoner and White, and their line is big and aggressive. Very good team. Very good matchup. I think it was just a field goal difference, or
I think it was like 36-32 or
something like that, in week 10. So the rematch happening once again.
Well, and we said, York William Penn has had a little bit of trouble stopping teams this year, but if they can turn a game into a shootout, they can be there with anyone, as we've seen all season. Playing a team 2 games in a row, with the week in between, that's tough. Like for both sides. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I think they played week 10 and 11 a few years ago, within the last couple of years.
Oh, that happened
They
again.
did, and without a bye week in there. So
Wow.
Seems to be
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
fairly often. So, but that's the big one for Wilson-Harrisburg, just because whoever wins that game will play the winner of that game. That's the 2-7 matchup. But elsewhere, the other part of the bracket, a couple of teams familiar to you guys, especially you, Jeff. In the number 1 seed was Hempfield. So Hempfield ended up getting the 1 seed, courtesy of their 8 victories and also their strength of schedule. Very brutal schedule for them, and that propelled them above Central York to get that 1 seed. They get to play Carlisle, who went through the rugged mid-pen to sneak in there at the 8 seed. And they popped up here in discussions. They kind of were an eye-opener for us when they smoked Mifflin beginning of the year. That was one that we were taken aback by. And Carlisle had a very strong season. They'll be playing Hempfield. You guys have anything on Carlisle? You have any information on the herd?
Not much yet. I didn't do a whole lot of digging today, but at least I know they were in last year, so 2 years in a row for them.
2 in a row for Carlisle.
Yeah, and I was a little taken aback when Hempfield got beaten up by Exeter. And it was 44-22.
Yeah, they doubled them up.
It really wasn't that close, but I thought they got rallied nicely, beat Reading, beat Cedar Crest, and shut out Cedar Crest. Put up a good number on Reading and came back and won the section. That was a good comeback for those guys, I thought. Strength of schedule. I mean, their losses are to Exeter 10-0 and Central York
9-1.
Yeah, and that was tied in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Central York got a pick 6 late to cap it. So good on Hempfield for getting a 1 seed in 6A around here. That's a pretty big deal. That's huge, getting home games.
Yeah.
Especially now, getting home games.
So how did they end up as 1 seed? You picked them to finish 3rd in their section, Jeff.
How about that? I know. Go from pick 3rd to winning the section. And getting the 1 seed, and their 2 losses were a 10-0 and 9-1.
Probably still taped up in the locker room.
Somewhere. Sure, it's in somebody's locker room taped up.
Well, that was Hempfield's first section championship since they shared it in 05?
I think it was
05 share.
And outright since the
94.
94. That's the year that they beat Wilson at Gursky the last
Correct.
time, right? Okay, yeah, that
And
would make sense.
It's been a long while for those guys. So it's their moment. Here they are. They got a shot. They got a winnable game Friday, and then Cumberland Valley or Township, and they already beat Township.
Right, they already beat Township, and Cumberland Valley's made the rounds amongst the 6A crew. Township and Cumberland Valley already played once this
Week
year.
1.
And obviously Harrisburg's played Cumberland Valley. Harrisburg's played Manheim Township. You mentioned Hempfield's played Central York. So Central York has already played York William Penn. Obviously Wilson's played Township and Hempfield. So there's a lot of chances for repeat games or already seeing repeat games. So you said Hempfield winnable game, probably should take care of Carlisle this week, but then it comes down to Manheim Township and Cumberland Valley. Any information on how that week 1 game went? I know Cumberland Valley ended up winning, but it was very close, very tightly contested game.
31-27, and that was the rainy night. Remember? It was lightning.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't get the lightning here till later.
There was like a 45-minute lightning delay in that game, and it kind of killed, from what I remember reading, it killed some Township momentum. And Cumberland Valley ended up making a big play when they came back out and held on and won. They made a bunch of big plays. Johnson had a huge game. It was like 29 for 33 for 340 and 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
That's the kind of year that kid's had. Township's been itching for a rematch.
Yeah, well, they're
And they
getting
gotta-
it.
Yeah, they got to go back over there and play in their new turf surface.
Was the week 1 game also at Cumberland
It
Valley?
was. It was the first game in the new facility, whatever you want to call it, over there.
Yeah, 31-27 back on August 26th. So
Yeah, a lot of big plays, and Kennel had 11 or 12 catches for Township and a couple of touchdowns. So I'd expect the same kind of game there. A lot of points.
yeah, Cumberland Valley scored the last, looks like 2 touchdowns
Yeah.
against Township in the third and fourth quarter. Yeah, it was 20-17 at half, but Cumberland Valley had a 78-yard punt return for a touchdown and a 70-yard pass for a touchdown.
To Hunter,
So 2
signs
huge
to Hunter.
plays. Yeah, Hunter signs to Hunter, and Hunter was also the one on the punt return. So, yeah, Cumberland Valley Manheim Township rematch there. Big games across the board in 6A, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, Justin and I will be back next Sunday to preview Wilson's next opponent, either Central York or York William Penn. And we will make sure to update everyone on the other games as well. But we'll start to wrap things up here. But the final few things, we're just going to breeze through a couple maybe local teams fighting in the playoffs still. Down in 5A, the big one, as you just mentioned, Hempfield played Exeter in week 8. Exeter went on to win LL, I guess that's section 2, undefeated 10-0, a week 10 matchup against Manheim Central and Manheim, which Exeter ended up winning, and also a thrilling game, a big time game. They are the number 2 seed in 5A, and they get to take on 7 seed Dover, who just beat Garden Spot in the first round. So you both have seen Exeter play this year. What do you think Exeter's chances are in 5A?
I'm stunned if they're not in the final.
I'm surprised if they don't win it,
Yeah.
even though they're going to have to go to Solanco, because I don't think Solanco's going to get knocked off. Their
Probably not.
side of the bracket doesn't look that tough, but Exeter, tremendous team. Maybe better than last year. Not even maybe. Their defense is definitely better than last year. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Their defense is terrific, and it's incredible what Matt Bauer's doing there year after year, producing these big time players. That program is just. They always have a D1 guy, big time players, and Joey Schlaffer just made a couple of huge plays at Manheim. When they needed it, they'd given up 17 straight unanswered points in that game. They were down 17-7, and they came back to win that, and they made some big time plays, and he was right in the middle of it.
He's an X Factor kid.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
you got to stop a guy like that. You got to have one of those of your own, and not many people do.
No.
So
I love their line play. Lash, Falange, Kachese. Those guys are really good. Love their line play. Relax over there.
That one hurts, Jeff. That one hurts.
5A teams have good lines too.
No. Kyle Lash was at
Lash?
Wilson.
Oh,
yeah, he
I
was.
didn't
And
know
he moved, unfortunately, and he's one that
He's
that was
really
one
good.
that was a tough one to lose.
He could help you out. He's a good player.
Mike's picked him as the defensive player of the week 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's right.
And every time Justin and I are just like, man, what could have been?
He's in the backfield a lot.
He was amazing at Manheim. He really, I don't really like to pick a player 2 weeks in a row, for something like that, but I could not pick him.
Yeah.
He was in the backfield more,
Incredible game from him.
more than some of the Manheim guys. So
Yeah, I like Exeter. I've seen them twice live, and they're legit. I like the Rotelli kid. He's thrown a couple picks in the second half of the year against some good teams.
and
But
you
he's
saw
good.
Y missing twice this year,
I
right?
saw YO twice.
How would you break that game down? Exeter Y missing.
Exeter YO?
I think
Now we're getting into
man.
fantasy
Oh
matchups.
man,
I'm glad we're leaving Wilson out of
Wow.
this.
I love YO's line though. I don't
How
know.
could you not?
I know. I don't know. Maybe do you think Exeter wins that game?
I think that would be a great game. Wyoming's got 3 Division I guys on their offensive line.
Yeah.
Other than St. Joe's Prep or Allentown Central Catholic?
Yeah.
When have you ever seen that?
Very rarely. Yeah, over the
I mean,
years.
Yeah,
Yeah, well-
Justin, Joe, Have you ever seen?
Maybe those some of those North Allegheny or Pittsburgh Central Catholic
right.
teams.
And
But
you're
again, you're talking 6A.
Yeah, big
Those
time
Pittsburgh
6A
schools that have
teams.
1,000 kids a grade too. Like it's
I really like YO, by the way. I'm glad I get to cover them now. They're fun.
We're
They're
going to
fun
get to
watch.
them momentarily. First up, though, is 4A, and there's a couple games I wanted to just talk about the teams there. For the Berks one is up first, though. Milton Hershey's traveling to Twin Valley. What did either of you see Twin Valley this year?
I have not.
Neither. Of you
Yes, I saw them actually a great game against Elizabethtown. They really hung, that was back and forth. They hung in there. Twin Valley's a gritty team. They only have 8 or 9 seniors. They don't have quite the explosive athletes that E-Town or Solanco has, but they hung in there with both those teams. Those were both one possession games. Solanco went 10-0. Twin Valley, the progress they've made in a short time, when your coach gets officially hired the second week of July, you're cutting it close. And again, you win with seniors, and Brett Myers doesn't have many seniors, so they've been very impressive.
And their quarterback's in it for another 2 years, right? His son, is it Evan?
Evan is a sophomore, and he's got a younger son that'll probably take over when Evan graduates.
So Twin Valley here to stay, moving up with former Middletown coach Brett Myers. I don't know much about Milton Hershey at the high school age. We've coached against them at the middle school stage, always very deep, lots of kids on the team, very athletic. But Milton Hershey, Twin Valley, is a key game in 4A that we wanted to hone in on. And the other one, because we mentioned them when talking about Exeter, is Manheim Central is the 2 seed in 4A. They're going to take on 7 seed York Suburban, who just beat number 10 Donegal. What is there to say about the Barons? They are on a roll this year. They got tripped up by Exeter, but that game could have gone either way. Manheim Central's really rebounded this season.
Skill kids are really good, and they're all juniors.
Yeah, what was the big one that was causing fits for Exeter and many other teams? Is it
Enterline?
Enterline. That's
Aaron Enterline.
Yeah.
He played one of the greatest games I've ever seen against Exeter. I mean, he was amazing. They couldn't stop him as a receiver. He had 2 interceptions. He had a punt return, 70 yards, another long punt return against a really good team. Honestly, it's one of the 5 best performances I've ever seen.
Wow. Yeah. Zach Hahn, the coach's son, quarterback.
he's an underclassman, right?
Junior, 26 touchdowns, 3 picks. Bryson Arnold's been their guy. He has
he's the running back.
Yeah, 1,700 rushing yards.
Is he an underclassman?
Junior.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they're set up for next year as well.
A lot of skill kids.
Enterline underclassman
Junior.
too. Junior. Okay, so big junior class there.
Bodie Seipel, their other receiver, 30 catches. He's a junior. They got to watch out for this Mikey Bentavania kid for York Suburban. Did you see what he did against Donegal? He rushed for 380 and 6 touchdowns.
Okay, just another day at the office.
He's not going to do that against Manheim.
No, he probably will not. But, I'm sure they're going to ride him as long as they can. Central prides itself on shutting down big backs at home. But,
Let me ask Jeff, did Manheim consider moving up to 5A? They were 5A last year, and then they came down. But they would have a much better chance in 5A. The final would be, again, them and Exeter.
probably.
Because in 4A, you got McDevitt.
McDevitt is and Lampeter Strauss.
Lampeter,
It was probably pick your poison. Are we going to have to run into Exeter? Or are we going to have to run into McDevitt? They came out immediately and said, we're staying down.
It didn't seem like there was any kind of option.
Right away. And I messaged Han that day and I said, what are you going to do? And he said, we're going to stay in 4. He said, we're a 4A. He said, we're the largest 4A in District 3. We're going to stay down. He said, we're always playing up. We're always playing up. We're always playing up. We're going to play in 4 for this cycle and see where we're at.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Most years in District 3, they'd win a 4A championship, but McDevitt's,
McDevitt's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if that game comes about. LS is tough.
That would
You
be
saw
an
all
interesting
that.
one. That's
LS
for
is
sure.
LS is pretty good. They're in Central's bracket. LS is going to have to beat Central to get back to their 4th final in a row.
Yeah, I think
At
Manheim.
Central.
Manheim's a little more explosive.
Yeah, I love LS's upfront play, and I thought their O line and D line were pretty good against YO.
Honestly,
quite frankly, but-
yes. I never. That game was never in doubt for why I'm missing, but LS made them work for it.
Right.
They hung around, and to me, LS didn't look physically imposing. So for them to be able to do that against what why Missing's trotting out, I thought despite 21-0 final score, I was impressed by what LS was there and able to do. To think that they can make some noise in that 4A field.
Well, and that's probably the best game that Wyo had all year.
Oh,
like trying to think through it.
Other than the first half against Berks.
Yes, you're right.
But
you're right.
I figured, and we all kind of figured that would be the case too.
All right. Well, speaking of the Spartans, they're going to kick off their playoff run just like Wilson this Saturday. Why Missing will host a game on Saturday against a Berks County foe, Hamburg, who beat number 5 Upper Dauphin this past playoff week. Hamburg Why Missing this Saturday. What do you guys think about that matchup?
I think Wyo wins.
I think I don't know if there's time, but I think Hamburg should play up to 4A right now because they'd have just as good a chance. I mean, Wyo's just. They're a monster. They're so they're so fundamental, so disciplined, smart. I mean, and it's not just big guys. They do have great size, but they do so much else so well, and they have the support guys around their big linemen to make it all work. It's just amazing.
We were talking to Wolfram after the LS game, and he just kept going on and on about their defense and just how they're just stopping people cold.
They are. Look at the numbers. It's ridiculous. They're giving up 6.9 points a game. I mean, this isn't 1970. That's what, back then the good teams gave up 7 points, 8 points a game. Now, in the era of, all these wide open offenses and 7-on-7 practices all summer where the offenses get so sharp, for them to be giving up less than a touchdown a game, plus most of that is coming in the fourth quarter when their starters are
right.
out.
Yeah,
They've given up maybe 3. The first team's given up maybe 3 touchdowns all year.
Right. I was gonna say that's skewed because the first unit is probably giving up half that amount.
I mean, they may not give up a point in the district tournament. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in 3 weeks if that were the case.
And I like Hamburg. And Hamburg can
they're
score.
explosive.
They can get up and down the field and get the
44
ball.
points a game. They have a great back. The quarterback is smart. But if they can score a touchdown, that would be really good.
Seriously, I hate to say that, but that's how good Wyo is.
Yeah, Wyo's on a phenomenal run, so I might get to check them out on a Saturday here in the future again. I got to do 2 games, which was great.
I think there's something like 48-3 the last 3 years, and 2 of the losses were in a state final. You know,
right?
And that team is up in 4A now.
Right.
I mean, it's there. I hate to say that now. They haven't played a district game yet, but it's there.
Well,
it's there for them.
So should Why Missing beat Hamburg, they'd have to play the winner of Lancaster Catholic West Perry, which West Perry denied the opportunity of Bruce Harbach Bowl Volume 2 here. Didn't get to see Schuylkill Valley and Lancaster Catholic tangle again. So West Perry, Lancaster Catholic, you don't think either of them would stand a chance up against Why Missing either? No.
Although I hear West Perry's pretty good, but
Wyo's just the machine right now.
Yeah, I think so. And they're playing at home, and now they're going to be totally focused. It's a long season, and when you're that good, you're not challenged. You can drift, and they did once or twice at Weiser. They fell behind 3-0, and at Berks Catholic, which played its best game of the year, it was they were down 3 points at halftime, and then they came out in the second half and they scored every time they had the ball. So now that it's the postseason, they're going to be mentally into it, and
good luck.
If they see it now, they know what's out there.
So then outside of district play, I'd assume then Wyo's biggest test in the state tournament, Danville was going to be my question.
Eastern
was it going to be
final?
Danville?
It could be. I don't know anything about Belle Vernon other than that they were ranked number 1 to start the year.
They've had at least one loss.
Lost like week 2 or 3.
Was it early?
And that's when Wyo moved into number 1. But
it
seems like Belle Vernon's been kind of picking up some steam lately, and may be a legitimate team.
They're the Whippeal team,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So because Central Valley have been the team at 3 out of the Whippeal the last 2 years. Now everyone at the beginning of the year, everyone was talking about Belle Vernon, and Why Missing jumped them after their early season loss. I forget who they lost to.
Belle Vernon?
Was it?
It was another ranked team.
Was it McKeithport or some?
I saw Central Valley.
I think you're right. I think it's McKeithport.
Yeah, Central Valley
Valley
lost
just
to
Aliquippa.
Aliquippa. Yeah. So. All right. So final thing here. Don't have much to say about 1A. They already had their district championship game. Steel High destroyed Fairfield and won their third straight district championship. But in 2A, I just wanted to mention it because I was really impressed. I haven't seen them in person, but reading over their scores, looking at the game write-ups, Anvil Cleona, the 1 seed in 2A, taking on number 3 Trinity in that district championship game. AC seems to really have it going on, and they've got a playmaker of their own.
Yep, Phoenix Music.
Music.
Our guy. He went over the 2,000-yard rushing last week.
Impressive.
At least the 5th kid in LL history to do that.
Yeah, you had the list.
I keep finding people. I keep getting messages from coaches. Our kid did it. I keep forgetting. And I'm going to go to that on Friday, actually, because it's a title game.
Yeah.
Phoenix Music's been great. 2,062 yards rushing. They're a niche team. They're a veer team. They run the ball. Come stop us. And they've, 3,000 plus rushing yards as a team. They've been really good. Good strength of schedule. Should have probably beaten Lancaster Catholic.
Right.
Had a 2-point conversion on the last play of the game and missed it. And they lost, and they led Elko big at the half, and Elko came back and won in the second half.
Ooh,
They were a couple touchdowns up on Hamburg, I think, early, and Hamburg came back.
That's right. So their losses are all shoulda, couldas. Trinity's pretty good. I know they're 7-5.
Well, one of Trinity's
7-4.
losses is to Roman Catholic, who beat Wilson
And
in
I
week
think
1.
it might have been actually a little closer than the Wilson.
It was the very next week.
It was the next week,
but that game got stopped early.
Yeah, it
too.
did.
It was
Trinity
weird.
lost to Wyomissing as well.
Yes.
I don't know who's making up the schedule at Trinity,
I
but
know.
you might want to find somebody else for next year.
Hang on.
They want those PowerPoint.
I guess. Don't take that call. They have what, six wins or whatever? But yeah, good strength of schedule. That'll be a fun game. I'm anxious to see that. Cover a total game on Friday.
Say, Jeff, does it seem to you that Joe's fishing for information
man.
before he makes his picks this week? Because he's he wants to hold on to first place and he's trying to
Central York. What do you guys got on?
Yeah, what do you guys thinking?
That's a good game.
What spread can you give me here?
I'm not a spread guy. I'm not a spread. I can't. That's funny.
I know we talked about this. There's some places that had, or maybe they still do, and I just haven't seen it. Would put spreads on high school games.
Yes.
Well,
Where are they getting this information from?
Harrisburg Patriot Penn Live used to
Is that
do that.
is that who it
I
was?
had to use the pick off the spreads.
Yeah,
God bless you, App. I don't know how you do that stuff.
Yeah, I really didn't care for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's tough.
they publish lines on high school games, and I don't.
Who's in charge of setting that? That's what I.
Well, I think the beat writers would do it, right?
They usually did it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if this was a Born Power Index.
And I don't really understand that stuff because I'm not a gambler. Like when I'm watching and they're like plus 130, I'm like, what? Plus
What is that?
What does that mean? Like I don't know what that means. And even in football, like plus 3, I'm like, so what are you telling me? It's already
I can
3
do
nothing?
the point.
I don't.
The point spreads are easier than like the money line and things like that, but. Yeah,
I'm not a gambler.
That was always a wacky one to me to see point spreads on high school games. Like, are people betting on it?
Well, I mean, people are betting. I just find it a little distasteful. I don't think we should be promoting it. Put it that way.
I'm cool with picking winners.
Yeah, straight up. Who's gonna win?
I don't care what the score is. I picked Wilson to win. I don't care if you win 3-0
Right.
or 38-7.
Right.
I think Wilson's gonna win. That's how I.
You're talking about Saturday afternoon.
talking
You're
about-
picking
I
38-7.
didn't
Wow.
go that far yet.
Interesting.
I mean, just in general.
Jeff, just remember,
That's who I
we
picked.
don't want you to pick Wilson. That's not what we want. It's not what we want. I'm picking Wilson. I pick Wilson to win every
That's a
week.
tough one. I haven't circled anything yet. I swear. But that's tough, man. You know what I noticed? I went back and looked at the box score from last year, and I know Jaden had a big game. Cam had no offensive stats last year in that game. No catches.
He rarely played.
He didn't play
He
too
had, like,
much
6
offense.
catches.
He played some
Or
at wide
six
receiver.
6 tackles. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, he was mostly returner and DB, a little bit here and there on offense. Once they got into the identity of run and then run some more, it kind of wasn't necessary.
Yeah, it was really just Jaden and Brad.
It was Jaden
a lot
and
of
Brad,
it.
Jaden and Brad. They just they didn't use him much on offense last year. Just and his role has been altered this year. It wasn't really.
Yeah, a lot.
He was expected to be more of the wide receiver threat, but then injuries at the beginning of the year kind of forced him into the role, and he's really grabbed grabbed a hold of it, which doesn't surprise us. He came up as a running back. He played some time at quarterback, but I mean, he's just such a superb athlete. That was the last thing on my list, is just to talk about Cam, because I know you both have seen him multiple times in person, and you've been keeping track of his return stats and what he's able to do the last 2 years. I mean, he's still sitting at this year. He has 6 punt returns, 5 of them he scored.
Touchdowns. I did the Mifflin game, and I was anxious to watch him play tailback, and he looked the part. Absolutely looked like a shifty tailback slasher kid, and I like how he just kind of reads.
His vision is phenomenal.
Knows when to spin, knows when to jump in a hole. He's fantastic athlete.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
I mean, Justin had an encounter with an opposing.
Yeah, it was just a guy near me last week, or at the Manheim Township game, was just like, kept asking me like, how, he's where's he going? And like he called a buddy during the game. He was working the game too, and he's calling a buddy during the game. He's like, "This Cam Jones is killing us!" Like, and I'm just enjoying it. But usually I'm up there, and you give the nod, and you just kind of keep to yourself. But this guy kept asking me questions about Cam, and he's like, "Tell Cam he's the real deal." I was like, "I'll make sure to do that." He used other language that I wasn't going to repeat, but
he doesn't want to hear it.
Right.
He's the most humble kid, and I even hated to ask him after the Mifflin game. I'm like, "Dude, they punted you the ball again," and he's like,
Yeah,
they did."
Yeah.
It's like, I got a good block. What do you want me to say?
I was in the Township game, and we talked about this a little bit after the game, but at that one point when Wilson had gotten stopped inside the 5, really inside like the 1, and then Manheim Township had 3rd and long from inside their own 5, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if we can get a stop here, what are they going to do? Like, are they going to directional punt it out of bounds? Because they'd been pretty good with not kicking anywhere near him, or honestly even Eddie, and they had the kicking game to be able to do that. But I was like, what are they going to do from the end zone? Well, they ended up converting and getting out to midfield before Wilson got it back. But I was really intrigued because, sometimes when a team's out near midfield, okay, they're not going to put it anywhere near them. They're going to go for it, like all that stuff. But from the end zone, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do with that punt? Because, anytime it goes back there, you think he's got a shot. So
pretty much. Pretty amazing what he's done.
Let me ask the 2 Wilson experts here about Cam's career. I mean, is he a top 10 all-time Wilson player?
Well, it's interesting because this stood out to me when you did the 10 questions with Cracona a couple weeks ago, and I think the question was who's the best Wilson player and
of all time. Yeah,
he said Cam Jones. Now, obviously, he's on the team with Cam, and he's in his class. They've played together for years,
and he can't remember Kerry Collins.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, right. Chad Henne.
But man, he's got to be up there. We went through the season stats last week, and he has 20 some touchdowns, and just this season, the returning stuff last year. I keep joking with Joey. Maybe he'll get all county returner this year.
He didn't get it last year.
No, he did not.
What?
Not that I'm bitter.
The Brooks coaches.
Not that I'm bitter over this, Jeff. But right.
He's an all-state player, but wasn't good enough in the county.
Right. But I mean, it's hard to quantify. But in that Township game last week, the first drive they were able to go down the field, and they got the defense shored up there. But in the second half, it was completely different because Cam started going from side to side, and I forget the receiver's name for Township, but it was a completely different game. When Cam traveled, and he does it on defense. He's dynamic on offense, and he's even more dynamic as a special teams player. It's just crazy.
Yeah, when you're talking all around athletes, I don't know that you can find one better. I don't know. I don't want to jump into recency bias, and this is happening right now in front of our eyes, but all around player, he's not going to have the stats as a lot do, because on defense teams don't throw his way.
No.
It's amazing what he's been able to do, especially these last 2 years. The return stuff is what has shot him through the roof, because people aren't supposed to be able to do that. You're not supposed to have 6 opportunities on punts and take 5 of them to the house for a score. Like that doesn't happen. So, well, yeah, what he's been able to accomplish, it did, Mike. Honestly, when you had let me know you were writing about Cracona, and I gave you a few pictures for that, and when it came out and I read through it and I saw that question came up, and he jumped right in. It seemed like they're just words, but I was like, I can see Nick saying without hesitation, Cam Jones, absolutely, 100%, knowing Nick, and you just step back and think about it, and you're like, does he have a point? It's like, where is he on the
my
all-time
reaction.
list?
Right, and it's one of those where you can make a really strong argument that he's up there. And like you said, there's some guys who are just, what Kerry ended up with like 40-some thousand NFL passing yards.
Well, and don't forget, Kerry was drafted by 2 pro sports.
Right.
He was drafted by Major League Baseball team.
Yeah.
So
right, yeah,
he's on the short list.
Yes, yes, and you just think of Chad. I know.
Chad won a state medal in track, right?
Right.
Which
is crazy.
Did they set, was that the county record 4x?
I think they did.
Yeah, and I think that
4x4?
group was. I think they've all been inducted into the Wilson.
Yeah,
Athletic
but
Hall of Fame
Chad
now.
was a great track athlete
right.
as well. He could really
Well,
run.
and basketball and baseball too.
Yeah.
Right. I remember the junior high baseball stories of where Bulldog is now, and that parking lot was
the
like
Central
the
Junior High
Junior
baseball
High
field.
baseball field, and he hit it down to where the JV baseball field is now. Like, just monster shots. And yeah, it's just so there are some of those guys, and it's hard to compare, but Cam has certainly worked his way into that discussion.
Well, plus he's a long snapper too. Is he still doing that?
He doesn't do that anymore.
Okay, he did
No,
last year.
He did last
He's an
year.
all-star at that.
Because he was a four-way
yeah.
all league pick last year,
Mhm.
and he could be this year in Section 1 defensive back of the year and offensive back of the year, and probably outstanding back.
Could be, and
Yeah.
first team kick return.
I mean, because he's leading the section in rushing.
yeah,
you
he
know.
should be first team running back. I would think.
Yeah, but I mean the specialty boards, he could get 3 of those,
Yeah.
and that's
There's no 1,000-yard backs in Section 1 yet.
Hopefully Cam
kinda
is by
weird.
this time next week.
35 yards.
35
Yeah,
yards.
He'll get that.
Yeah, and he didn't play the position against Roman Catholic. He only had a few carries against Penn Manor and McCaskey. So, yeah, I mean that game against Manheim Township was like a kind of a breakout for him at running back. We all saw him; he was able to do it, and he was having a good season regardless. But to rush for almost 250 yards in a game against a quality opponent like that was a big one. So,
let me give you guys. I'll give you guys your homework assignment.
Okay.
Work on your all-time top 10 or 15, and I'll write about it. It'd be a great story, to who are the the elite. Maybe pick the top 11. It's a good football number.
Good
top
football number.
Greatest 11 football players in Wilson history.
What you're
And Cam's
doing
got to be
here-
right there.
What you're doing here, Mike, is trying to get us in trouble. Is what you're trying to do.
Well, I know Doug would never do this, because then coaches hate that.
Well, we've gone through a few of our top all time. It's an off-season thing. We do that with Paul, and we've done quarterbacks and we've done running backs.
Ooh.
I wasn't here for the quarterback.
you missed the quarterback
I was like relieved. I was relieved I missed that one. I was here for the running backs one, and I was so anxious.
Yeah. Well, then we ended up we did a top 5, but we ended up talking about at least 12 guys. But we ended up picking our top 5, and we were all pretty much in the same ballpark about it. I thought quarterbacks was a little bit easier. Running backs was tough. We probably will attempt to do receivers or tight ends, and then maybe generic defensive players. We got a lot of flack when we did running backs about we had to do offensive line, but that's just that's really tough.
You
That's
could do a
really
show just
tough.
on the tight ends you had in this program.
Right,
Oh my
that's
gosh, yes.
yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's something, but we're talking about all-time greats. You mentioned where does Cam Jones rank, and you're giving us homework for that. But you mentioned Chad, obviously, and we talk about these guys didn't see Kerry Collins play. These guys didn't see Chad play. They weren't even born or they were like 1,
Yeah,
which is it's hard to believe, makes us feel really old. That
every day.
The seniors on this Wilson team were maybe 1, maybe not even born when Chad was playing last.
Wow.
At Wilson, which, and honestly, he was fall of 03, and these guys are all 17, 18, so probably not even born when Chad was playing at Wilson. So yeah, time doesn't stop. So unfortunately, the show has to stop. We've made it over our hour. We're now the Bulldog Hour Plus.
Nice.
Maybe we can get a deal with Disney or something like that. But I appreciate you guys coming out, especially coming here to the studio. I know it can be a drive or
It was grueling.
Yeah, for you.
tough for you, Mike. I
Price
know.
of gas these days, Joe.
Never-
I had to cut back on this.
But we do appreciate you joining us. It was
Absolutely.
a great discussion. Love to talk the playoffs. Great Wilson-Harrisburg preview at the beginning, and I like filling it in and talking about all of the Berks LL teams still alive, fighting for district playoffs. We'll have to do it again. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Maybe we'll get you on in an off-season show. And we can come up with some fun topic that's sure to bring about debate amongst
All-time
the Wilson
greatest
community.
Wilson defensive ends.
We start talking defense, you're going to hear from Ernie. Real
I'll
fast.
take a call from Ernie.
Ernie's gonna
All right.
find you on the field if he did.
That's all right.
We'll send him your way.
Cool.
All right. So, Mike, Jeff, thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Justin, any final words from you before we head out of here?
Just real quick, we gave the shout out I think last week. To
Yes.
the boys water polo team, girls water polo also won state title this
Yes.
week. Also beating North Penn. This one was at North Penn.
Ooh.
First championship for the girls in a long time. Congratulations
And-
to Coach L and the ladies.
First time for both boys and girls since the early 2000s.
That's what I
think.
read. Yeah, I
2001,
didn't
think.
know when it was, but
So-
I saw somewhere that was 2001. So
Yeah, so congratulations to the water polo program, boys and girls, and also two district runner-ups,
Yeah.
girls volleyball and field hockey.
Yep.
Both of those
Close,
were
excruciatingly close.
very
games.
great matches and
Yeah.
games. Unfortunately, Wilson came up just short, but incredible matches, and both teams are still alive.
Yeah, still alive. Yep.
in the state tournament. So, so great time. Oh, and the veterans dance,
Yes,
just
it was
happened. 20th
huge
anniversary.
turnout. It looked like,
of
which is
the
awesome.
veterans
Because I know
dance.
that's been tough, like the last couple of years, with just the way things were crazy. So great turnout. So that was awesome too. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is it from us. We will be back 1 week from now, Sunday, November 13th, for episode 18 of our 8th season here at the Bulldog Hour. But for Justin Raffauf, I'm Joe Mays. Until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.